The journey through the postseason continues for CAA football. I'm Carly Smith here with Rob Washburn, bringing you two things to watch out for in the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs. Last Saturday, number 5 UAlbany advanced to the quarterfinals for the first time in program history after a 41-13 win over Richmond. The Great Danes' Elijah Hills had a solo sack on the first play of the game, and that set the tone for UAlbany. Reese Poffenbarger finished the day with 186 yards of offense and 4 scores. He was electric. Up next, UAlbany will head to Kibbe Dome to face Idaho on December 9th. The Vandals just completed an overtime thriller against Southern Illinois last Saturday, where the special teams unit came in clutch to seal a 20-17 victory. Rob, what do you anticipate seeing out of both teams this weekend?
Yeah, Carly, both UAlbany and Idaho feature top-notch defenses that rank among the top 10 in FCS, allowing less than 300 yards per game. Yeah. But the Great Danes and Vandals also have plenty of playmakers on offense, and that's the area I want to focus on. UAlbany quarterback Reese Poffenbarger and Idaho quarterback Giovanni McCoy were both finalists for the Walter Payton Award as the nation's top offensive player and have had tremendous seasons. Poffenbarger's thrown for over 3,000 yards with an FCS best 33 touchdowns and has also run for 5 scores, including 2 last week against Richmond. McCoy has passed for nearly 2,600 yards and 14 touchdowns and has added 190 yards on the ground. They both have lots of weapons at their disposal. UAlbany freshman Griffin Woodell has run for over 95 yards in 4 of his past 6 games, and the Great Danes feature a pair of All-CAA receivers in Julian Hicks and Brevin Easton, who have combined for better than 1,500 yards and 21 touchdowns. Now, the Vandals counter with running back Anthony Woods, who has rushed for 1,051 yards and 15 touchdowns, and receiver Hayden Hatton, who has 1,096 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. These two teams are nearly identical statistically, and it sets the stage for a highly competitive game inside the Kibbe Dome on Saturday night.
Yeah, and this is a UAlbany team that's experienced playing in various time zones throughout the season. You can look back to their Hawaii trip earlier this year that trained this team to compete at a high level despite the travel. Let's send it over to the man in charge. Here's what UAlbany's Greg Gattuso had to say prior to the matchup.
But football is always about the start point is quarterbacks on offense, and they have a really good one. I mean, I watch him play, and he reminds me a lot. He and Reese have similarities in how they play and what they do. They have great size at receiver. They've got a 6'2" and a 6'3" guy running around, and some speed with number 1, who's an excellent football player. So, they're good. And then the running backs are really good. They're physical. I'm watching these guys picking up blitzes in the hole and stuff like that. They're good football. They're a good team. They're very well coached.
Grab your coffee. This game will be played at 10 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. Now, on to our second thing to watch. Number 8, Villanova will travel to face number 1, South Dakota State on Saturday. The Wildcats captured a 45-28 win over Youngstown State in the second round. Connor Watkins rushed for 2 touchdowns and collected 331 yards of total offense. The Jackrabbits, who are looking to defend the national title, are a perfect 12-0 this season. Their last loss dating back to September 3rd, 2022. They're led by quarterback Mark Gronowski, who's one of the top 3 vote getters for the 2023 Walter Payton Award, alongside Monmouth's Jaden Sheridan and New Hampshire's Max Brosmer, 2 names we're pretty familiar with. Rob, what's your breakdown?
Yeah, Carly, considering that these schools are separated by 1,400 miles, there is actually a decent amount of familiarity between the programs. Yeah. Villanova traveled to South Dakota State for the second round of the playoffs in 2016 and then hosted the Jackrabbits in the quarterfinals in 2021. Now, you touched on the 2 quarterbacks, Connor Watkins and Mark Gronowski, who are both having outstanding seasons and are among the top 5 in FCS in pass efficiency, but they will be challenged by facing 2 of the nation's best defenses. Villanova is number 7 in FCS in total defense, giving up just 296 yards per game, and they've held 5 opponents to 10 points or less. They have a deep rotation of players on the defensive line who keep blockers off linebackers Shane Hartzell and Brendan Bell and allow them to make plays. Hartzell set a season high with 14 tackles against Youngstown State. Bell had 9 stops, and the 2 of them combined for 6 quarterback hurries. That pressure helped create key interceptions for the Wildcats' Ice Waxer and Kristen Sapp. South Dakota State now is number 1 in FCS in total defense and scoring defense, allowing only 256 yards and 10 points per game. The Jacks haven't given up more than 21 points in a game all season, and they posted a shutout against Mercer last Saturday, in which they held the Bears to 151 yards and just 6 first downs. Linebacker Jason Freeman is the team's leading tackler and a first-team all-conference selection. South Dakota State has won 26 straight games, has been ranked number 1 all year long, and is looking to win a second straight FCS championship. Villanova, which is riding a 7-game winning streak, will need to be at its best on both sides of the ball to pull off the upset.
Here's what Villanova's Mark Ferrante had to say prior to kickoff.
What doesn't impress you with those guys? We know Isaiah Davis in 2021, he was a sophomore and had a great game against us in their victory here. And now we have to go out to their place. And I know they probably played pretty well at home because we faced them out there in 2016. So a little bit of familiarity with them, not a ton, but it looks like the typical South Dakota State games that we've seen, or teams that we've seen in the past. They're big, they're physical, and they play good fundamental football. So it's going to be two teams going toe-to-toe, and hopefully we'll come out with a victory. Hopefully we'll make the fewest mistakes.
Kickoff is set for noon on Saturday on ESPN. Safe travels and best of luck to everyone competing this weekend. As always, visit CAAfootball.com for results, recaps, and updates, and follow along on social media at CAA Football.